Ravan went back to Marich and said, this time, he said, look, Marich, I want to kidnap Sita. And you are a master of disguise. You need to help me. You turn yourself into a deer and you attract Sita's attention. Sita will then ask Ram and Lakshman to get the deer. And then you slowly draw them away from the cottage. When Sita is alone, I will go and kidnap her. Valmiki's description is very interesting then. He says, Marich looked at Ravan without blinking, as though he were dead. He licked his lips and said, you don't know Ram. Marich also said, Shurpankhah instigated Khar. Khar attacked Ram and got himself killed. What is Ram's fault in all this? Ko Ramasya Vyatikramah. Marich said, I know Ram very well. Many years back, when I was much younger and Ram was just a boy, I had attacked Vishwamitra's Yagya. Ram had defeated me then as well. Then much later, when he was in Dandakaranya, I wanted to take revenge and attacked him with 2 of my friends. They both got killed and I somehow managed to flee. But now, even the memories of my encounters are terrifying. So, Valmiki describes how Marich sees Ram everywhere. He's imagining Ram. Thousands of Ram in the forest. They are holding a bow and he feels that they are holding a noose, etc. So Marich tells him very clearly, my advice is this. Don't provoke Ram and go back to Lanka. And if you are still intent on this plan, leave me out of it. Ravan got angry and he asked Marich, did I ask for your advice? I have come here for your support and you are going to help me. And I'll reward you well for this. But if you refuse, I will kill you now itself. Marich was left with no choice and he said, you leave me no choice, I will do as you ask. Ravan then suddenly turned friendly and he said, that's my man, that's the real Marich. Idani masi Marichaha purvamanyaha. And so the two got together to execute the plan of kidnapping Sita. So Marich and Ravan then go from Lanka to Panchavati. By the way, they take a Viman. So this is the first time we come across the flying Rath, flying chariot, Viman. Ravan had multiple Vimans and right now the name is not given as Pushpak. That comes later. They come to Panchavati. Marich transforms himself into a deer, a very attractive deer. And as planned, he goes near Sita. She sees him and she's mesmerized. She calls out to Ram Lakshman. Lakshman says, this deer cannot be for real. I think it's a trick. Perhaps it's that Rakshas Marich. But Sita did not listen. She asked Ram to get the deer for her. And Ram told Lakshman, you be here and stay on guard. I will go after the deer. Ram started chasing the deer, and the deer, which is Marich, drew him further and further away from the cottage. This happened for a long time. Finally, Ram was able to take aim and shot off an arrow. The arrow struck the deer, which is Marich, in the chest. And he screamed, Sita! Lakshman! Ram realized this was a trick. And he wished that Sita and Lakshman would not fall for this. Back in the cottage, Sita heard the scream. And she was worried for Ram. She told Lakshman, Ram is in trouble. He is calling out to us. Please go and help him. Lakshman said, Ram does not need help to tackle any Rakshas. And that was not his voice. Please be assured, he will come back. But Sita was not assured. she became hysterical with worry. And she told Lakshman, "Why aren't you going out to help him? Do you want him to die?" "I know. In fact, you want him to die so that you can have me. Isn't that so? You have had an eye on me all along, and that is why you came into the forest. Perhaps you planned all this with Bharat." What a thing to say to Lakshman. Remember, when they were leaving, Lakshman's mother had told him, "Ramam Dasharatham Viddhi, Mam Viddhi Janakat Majam." Treat Ram as your father. Treat Sita like your mother. And that is what Lakshman had done. For all these years, he had served them. And now to hear this from Sita, how unfair. He said to Sita, "Your words fall upon my ears like red-hot darts. Shrotrayor ubhayor madhye taptanara cha sannibham." Imagine the pain if you heat up some arrows on a fire till they are red hot and then strike them in your ears. What pain it would cause. Lakshman said, "That is the pain hearing your words are causing me. I cannot take this." He said, "I will go now." And he went after Ram, and he did not draw any Lakshman Rekha. By the way, there is a popular story that Lakshman drew a line around the cottage which had the power that nobody could cross that line, which was called Lakshman Rekha, but that is not mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana. So Lakshman went away. Sita was now alone, and Ravan made his next move. He wore a disguise of a monk, and he came to the cottage. He looked at Sita. He checked her out lecherously and then spoke to her. He asked her, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" He showered compliments on her beauty. Sita ignored all of that and welcomed him as he was a monk. She was uncomfortable. She so wished that Ram and Lakshman would come back. She was looking out towards the forest, but there was no sign of them. She then answered. She told him about herself and Ram and Lakshman and asked about him. "Who are you and what are you doing in this forest?" Ravan's answer, and then their discussion. I want to show you another video on this because it really brings out Sita's strength of character.
"And now please tell me about yourself," she said. "Your name and lineage, and why you are roaming all alone in this forest." Ravan replied sharply, "My name is Ravan, the very word that strikes fear in the hearts of one and all. I am the king of the Rakshasas. O Sita, come with me and be my queen. You will live in great luxury and comfort in my fabulous capital city of Lanka. There are many women that I have captured from different lands. You will be the queen among all of them." An enraged Sita fired back at Ravan. "I am the devoted and loyal wife of Ram, who is the greatest among men. You are a jackal and I am a lioness. You cannot have me. I am like the sun's radiance that you cannot even touch. You want to abduct the beloved wife of Ram? Oh, poor you! You are seeking to pull the teeth out of a hungry, powerful lion. You are trying to swim across the sea with a heavy stone around your neck. So, you wish to violate Ram's wife? You are rubbing your eyes with a needle, licking a razor with your tongue. You are drinking the deadliest of poisons. Yadantaram syandika samudrayoh tadantaram dasharathes-tavaivacha. The difference between Ram and you is the difference between the ocean and a creek. The difference between Ram and you is the difference between gold and lead, between sandal-infused water and ditch water. Having thus told him off, Sita stood trembling. Ravan knitted his eyebrows and frowned. Lalate pruktim kritva. He tried to cow her down by telling her about his prowess and how everyone was terrified of him. He told her how lucky she was that the great king of the Rakshasas himself had fallen for her. She ought not to refuse him and let go of such an excellent chance. He tried to win her over by telling her again about the wonderful life she could have in Lanka. And he promised, "My dear, I will never do anything against your wishes. Abandon Ram and come with me." When Sita refused again, Ravan announced, "You are crazy. I am the only one suitable to be your husband. You fool, I simply cannot understand what you see in Ram." Ravan was an entitled, powerful man, used to having his way every time. A woman had refused his advances. So, of course, it was now time to use brute force. He dropped his guise of being an ascetic and Vamena Sitam Padmakshim Murdhajeshu Karena Sah Urvostu Dakshine Naiva Parijagraha Panina. He seized her by the hair with his left hand and lifted her legs off the ground with his right hand. Sita started screaming and tried desperately to free herself from his grip. But Ravan was simply too strong for her. He carried her off towards his rath.
You never hear about how powerfully Sita gave it back.
Yes.
Why not?
In many popular productions, Sita's character is perhaps a bit too weepy.
Docile.
Yes.
This
And clearly, she was physically not able to take on Ravan, but we will see again and again, for all his physical strength, he was not able to bend her will. So, even right now, when he was carrying her off, and some people think that he never touched her, but clearly he did, and he was carrying her off, Sita called out to Jatayu. By the way, she uses the word Arya to call out to him. Many times we think that Aryan or Arya is some different people, but it stands for a noble person in Ayodhya, among the forest dwellers, as well as in Lanka. So Sita called out to Jatayu. Jatayu came to her rescue. And his action is also incredible. He told Ravan, "You are young and I am old. You are well armed and I am not. But I will not allow you to kidnap Sita while I am alive. Ravan, fight with me." Clearly, he had little chance of winning. But he said, "Even then, while I am alive, I will not let something like this happen." And he put up a great fight, but he soon got exhausted. Ravan kicked him to the ground, and then with his sword, he cut off all his limbs. Sita rushed to the injured Jatayu. Ravan pulled her back. Sita went and hugged a tree. Ravan again grabbed her by the hair, dragged her back to the rath, and flew away. In the rath, Sita was weeping bitterly. Poetically, Valmiki says, the treetops, as they swayed, seemed to be saying to her, "Ma bhai, don't be scared." And Sita soon overcame her fear. And she started looking to what else she could do to give some clues for Ram and Lakshman to find her. She started looking ahead. And she took off some of her jewelry, put it in a piece of cloth. By the way, in the first discussion I had said, when Dashrath insisted that she wear some jewelry, this will play a role in the story, this is the point. So Sita took off her jewelry, put it in a piece of cloth, and without drawing Ravan's attention, dropped it near some Vanaras who were sitting on a hilltop. And the Vanaras looked up at her, and they saw Ravan going away with a woman who had just dropped some jewelry. Ravan took her to Lanka, and there he forcibly took her around his grand palace and proudly showed it off. By the way, even here he mentioned he had captured hundreds of women from different lands. And his offer to Sita was, you will be the chief among them. You will be my chief queen. You will live a life of luxury. But inducements or threats, Sita's answer was a firm no. Sita also knew that Ravan was physically very powerful. So she told him, Idam shariram dissanyam bandhava ghatayasvava. This body does not have consciousness. Even I am not interested in it anymore. You can bind it, restrain it, or kill it. But you can never have me. Ravan was unable to bend her will. But he still thought that he could break her. He called some Rakshasis and told them, take her to the Ashokvan. She is a wild elephant that needs to be tamed. Torture her and then be nice to her. Break her. And to Sita, Ravan gave this clear threat. He said, I give you 12 months. Come to me willingly, or else I will eat you up for breakfast. Tatastvam pratarashartham sudash chetsyanti leshashah. My cooks will chop you up into pieces for my breakfast. That was the threat.
Hey, if you enjoyed this clip from the Ranveer Show, we've uploaded a ton of other clips related to a ton of other topics. So explore the channel because there's something for everyone.